Christian Kiefer. I'm a photographer. I've been a photographer for just about 20 years now, and one of the things that has always inspired me has been aviation, and the retro era from the 1940s is just, it's very classy and something that has I've always been kind of wishing we could sort of get back to as a society. So one of the things I did was, I shot many different kinds of photography, and I'd worked in Hollywood movies and all that sort of thing, but I really wanted to be able to kind of control my own destiny with my project. So I started off just kind of doing some images with aviation, which was all from Warbirds. World War II fighter planes have just been something part of my life since I was a little kid. My dad and I would sit there and build models, and I learned all the different types of aircraft that were utilized in all the theaters of World War II. It was real natural for me to sort of use it as a subject, and I get real excited when I get around these airplanes. So, and of course, as I grew up, I noticed the nose art. You get to a certain age and you don't miss that as a guy. So that was always sexy to me. And it still is. What's going on in the pop culture right now is a little bit too gratuitous for my taste, and I'd like to be able to bring sexy back in a very wholesome fashion.
Hi, I'm Meredith Branham. I'm from Orlando, Florida. I did the pinup shoot today. I was contacted on Model Make to do it, and it sounded awesome because I love the pinup era. I think it's great, fun, and classy. I've been modeling professionally for about 5 years. It's something I've always wanted to do my whole life. I started doing acting and theater and dance when I was 3 years old, and so I just kind of kept on building on that. And then when I was about 20, I got into it professionally, started modeling for different places around Orlando and in Florida. So I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite things to do.
And I think one of the things we found is that with the release of our calendars, we're finding that people they actually really want this. Even the guys, they're coming to me and they're saying just leaving a little bit to the imagination is kind of what they're after. They've kind of seen it all out there with the internet, kind of, really exploiting women. Kind of what we're doing is we're getting back to an age when a little bit to the imagination was actually something that left you waiting for something. And of course, the nose art that you see here on Precious Metal is just one example of how the men in World War II were sending that message not only to the enemy that flew past them, but to the morale of all the men that were actually in these flying machines, that they were fighting for those women back home. And to me, that's a very romantic idea. And I'm kind of a romantic at heart, so I think when I combined the two, took some of my fashion experience from the kind of photography I've done in the past, and then just combined it with sort of this aviation niche that I really didn't see anybody working in too much. It's kind of interesting because when I started to research where I could get the aircraft, it was kind of nice to find that there was a community that is just dedicated to keeping these airplanes flying still. And so one of the things that we want to achieve with Warbird Pinup Girls is that we want to help contribute back by bringing some attention to the preservation of these wonderful airplanes. Now, Precious Metal here behind me is not a stock stock P-51 from the war, but we also wanted to show kind of how the history progressed and how the men took those airplanes after the conflict and did neat things with them in the culture and became racing planes. So it was a very special aircraft. We were very blessed to have Tom offer to let us use it. So with the modified prop in the front, which is kind of a very unique aspect of the aircraft, we thought that would really make some dynamic photography. And so, but we still got back to the traditional pinup girl that we put up on the aircraft. And that's what we intend to do with all of our editions of Warbird Pinup Girls.
I love it. I just love being in these outfits. They're super cute. I love working with the planes. I was nervous because it was the first time I'd ever done pinup work, so I wanted to make sure I was doing poses right, but it was good. He gave good direction, and I was able to follow him really well. I think the most challenging part was just with the sun there, trying to look and not squint. And probably just the movements and making sure that I was putting everything out that needed to be out, basically.
We started off in 2010 with the 2011 version, which was all fighter planes. And one of the other things that we do at Warbird Pinup Girls is we only shoot on aircraft that are are flight ready. But what happened was it gave me an opportunity to kind of expand the concept. Well, if we're working with flight-ready aircraft, why not take the photo shoot and you know, actually videotape that for a television program? Because then what we can do is incorporate the pilot and the organization and the actual aircraft in some live aviation demos. I mean, what could be more exciting than that? So, you know, our show is going to consist of the creation of the pinup girl, which will go through everything from the casting process to the wardrobe, which my beautiful wife helps me with, and she does a wonderful job. I've found that even though I think I'm always great at everything I do, sometimes a woman's touch is actually what's really needed. Let me just tell you guys, you know, generally know how I work. I have sort of a vision of the shot that I want to achieve first, and then we kind of go into freewheeling it after that. So the one thing I do want to get is something more like this, because I'm going to try and place her on the back which is the little wings on the back of the airplane, not the main wings.
Okay.
I'm going to see if I can put her up there. I don't have permission for that right now, but we're going to talk to Tom about maybe putting her up there, which is going to be precarious because we don't want anybody to fall.
That's kind of cool because it's different than what
But if she was in some kind of a position like this right here and leaning against the main back fin, it's going to be this kind of setup here.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know with the heels on if there would be.
Well,
I think she'll be okay.
Put the matting down when we get her up there, okay? And so she can actually hopefully lean against the main stabilizer.
Yeah, she can put her body up.
Imagine this together, okay? And it'll be on this side likely too, okay? Because I'm going to be down here shooting this direction, and I want that big prop up in the front.
Okay.
Okay? So, Tammy, I really want you to, we're going to work it that, if I can get that position, I want to work it for quite a while.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, every little accent you can give me, change up, do it. Her contribution of helping me choose the right kind of girls and the right kind of wardrobe has been something that I would never give up looking back now, because that's been a huge contribution to the success of making it authentic. And that's one of the things that I really strive to do in all of my work, is to do the real thing, you know, just the way it was back then. Sometimes we might be just a little edgy, but for the most part, it's just like what you saw in the airplanes of World War II. Getting back to nose art, that's going to be another portion of our program. We're going to elaborate on that. We're going to talk about how the nose art evolved through the different conflicts, starting when aviation was born. Men used to identify weapons of war for centuries, going back as far as the Roman times. They would paint some kind of identifying icon on their shields, so that when we were in battle, they could look across out of their metal helmets and they could see that there's the guy I know over there because there's the star or the animal on his shield. That's how nose art actually, it's called heraldry, is I believe how it's pronounced. And that is the individuality of a weapon. So what it was used for in the Second World War really was to boost morale for the men as they were in the air. They could also identify the aircraft they were flying with by the name or by the girl that was painted on it or by the cartoons they used at the time. And you know, that stretched all the way back from those times up into the modern times. But that kind of art has sort of been a lost art now in our modern times and our modern cultures. Men aren't allowed to do those things on military aircraft. So it's a very special time. It's sort of a golden age. It's sort of a romantic period. And so that was a huge inspiration for me in my work, and we're going to elaborate a lot of that on our television program. In this particular edition of Warbird Pinup Girls, I went back to one of the most successful fighter planes of all time, actually, which is the P-51 Mustang. And obviously there's a big fan base for that in the Warbird community. It's one of the draws that brings the crowds into a lot of the air shows. It's one of the most exciting aircraft to watch. And one of the things you'll notice with my program, instead of just my calendar, is you're going to get to hear it. And this aircraft makes a sound that you just can't get it anywhere else. any pilot will tell you when they hear a Merlin engine cranking, it's just a very, very exciting thing. And when they get to throttle up and you get to see that aircraft leave the ground, I'm always envious and always jealous. In the case of precious metal, we have the Griffin engine, which is even more monstrous and more exciting. With the twin-bladed counter-rotating prop 2, which is a very rarity even on the racing circuit, the sound is even more overpowering than the Merlins that came in the Mustangs from World War II. So this takes excitement to a brand new level, and I just can't wait to show my audience just how exciting this is going to be. And Tom is just an amazing pilot, and you know he becomes one with this machine. So come along for a ride, and I think you're going to be really pleased that you did.
My name is Tom Richard. I'm based in Kissimmee, Florida. I run Warbird Adventures in the Kissimmee Air Museum. We've been in operation now for 14 years, and only planning on getting bigger and better. I started together with a business partner, Graham Misey, and we've expanded into helicopters and a fairly extensive exhibit now and air racing. It's what I always wanted to do. Wanted to fly since I was a little kid, any way, shape, or form. When I read a magazine about air racing in 1979, I was 7 years old, decided that's what I was going to do when I grew up. Yes, I am the pilot and operator of Precious Metal, based here in Kissimmee. We've, for many years, been trying to get into the unlimited field, and this was our ticket in. I was working on the old owner for quite a few years to let me have the airplane, and eventually we got our wish. And careful what you wish for, by the way. The aircraft was on the scene in Reno for many years. It was built in 1989, flown and raced by Don Whittington, later on sold to Ron Buccarelli. He raced it for a few years, and then put in storage. We took the airplane out of storage a year ago and did extensive repairs and restoration work to it, mods to bring it up to speed to bring it to Reno 2011. This particular airplane is a modified P-51D. The firewall forward has been removed and replaced with a much larger Griffin power plant and contra-rotating propeller, which is probably the most distinct feature of the aircraft. In addition, the wings have been clipped, the systems have been modified, the canopies lowered and cut, the cockpits moved rearward, and so on. The aircraft is specifically built for racing. It's not good for anything else, just to go fast. We found this aircraft down in Placid Lakes, belonged to Ron Buccarelli at the time, which is the second owner of the aircraft. I'm the third operator of the machine, and it's been around since 1989 was the first time it flew. As far as the racer is concerned, the P-51 has been very successful over the years, largely due to the late aerodynamics that came about towards the end of the war, or middle part of the war, I should say. Which enabled the aircraft to go quite fast. It's got a very, very slick wing. It's got a small profile, very powerful engine, stock even, and it turned out to be very successful in the racing circuit. Today, it's the fastest aircraft in Reno are indeed Mustangs. I always wanted to fly Warbirds. As a kid, that was a dream of mine. So when I moved to the United States to pursue aviation, that's the direction I was aiming. And I've been teaching now in T6s for many, many years, and that naturally leads you into other Warbirds. Other than the obvious modification of replacing the power plant and clipping wings and cutting canopies and things of that sort, there's a lot of systems that are quite different. For example, in order to run the high manifold pressures that we run, you have to run high octane gasoline, 160 to be specific. And in addition, in order to avoid something called detonation, we spray methanol and water into the engine to cool the intake charge at a rate of 3 gallons a minute at power. So that system is quite special. in part due to the fact that methanol is corrosive, so it's a very difficult liquid to deal with in a system like that. We also have a spray bar, which sprays water over the oil cooler and radiator to keep the aircraft cool. It's simply not enough to have air flowing over it. Even at 500 miles an hour, it's not enough. You still have to spray water over the radiator. The race version of a Mustang is not half as nice to fly as a Cadillac stock P-51, if you will. Right. The P-51 is a very nice aircraft, very easy to fly, very straightforward, comfortable and ergonomic, whereas the racer is built for one reason only, and that's to go fast. None of the other things matter. So they tend to be unstable, they're cramped, they're hot, very hard to see out of, very inconvenient to operate in every way, shape, or form. But that's the price you pay for going fast. So no compromises, straight purebred racehorse. People resent the fact that World War II airplanes are being used for air racers. I couldn't agree more. There's no reason to chop up a valuable piece of history, a national treasure, if you will, for the purpose of air racing. And that's not done anymore. That hasn't been done for 30, 40 years. The airplanes you see in Reno have been that way for a long, long time, and they have a lot more history racing than they do as fighter planes. Many of them were actually never fighters. They were based stateside, and they were usually wrecks that were picked up and restored for the purpose of the racing. If racing didn't exist, most of these airplanes, they wouldn't even be flying today. They wouldn't exist. The notion that we're chopping up and blowing up pieces and parts that belong to World War II airplanes should be put on display, that's simply not true. Flying precious metal is an incredible experience. It's been a hell of a ride, if you will. The amount of attention the aircraft brings out in people is just unbelievable. The support and interest that it brings out, and it elevates you to a level you're normally not accustomed to, which is very flattering and a lot of fun. That being said, being involved in a project like this is an awful lot of work. It's not all glamour like it looks like in the videos and the pictures and, you know, the parties after the races, etc. There's so much more to it. We're you know, slaving 18 hours a day all summer long to make this happen, and it's a team effort. It's not just me. It's a large group of people to make this happen. Everybody's interested, and they're putting way more effort in than I certainly deserve. And it's a neat ride. I hope it lasts. I want to continue for a long time. When we acquired precious metal, the paint job was due for replacement. So we stripped the airplane down, tried to come up with something cool, and on the right side of the cowling, there was a little Yosemite Sam looking guy. It was a prospector because it was precious metal. We decided to keep the name of the airplane, but he was a little old and haggard, worn out, so it was time to retire him. So we tried to come up with something good. At the same time, a good friend of mine in Reno, Albie Reddick, who runs Aviation Classics up there, said that he wanted to feature precious metal on the t-shirt for Reno 2011, Miss Reno 2011. So we decided, well, why don't we just put her on the side in a prospector outfit and renew the whole look of the airplane a little bit. So there she is, Miss Reno 2011. There was a lot of extraordinary artwork on the side of fighters and bombers in World War II, obviously to boost their morale and entertain the troops, if you will. And that tradition has lived on, obviously, in fighters and bombers displayed on the air race and air show circuit, which is a really neat tradition. I mean, what's more American than a pretty girl in a fighter. It doesn't get any better than that. From Precious Metal, we're excited to be a part of the Warbird Pinup Girls 2013 All Mustangs edition. Good luck with the shoot.